When we talk about sustainability, what do we think about? For buildings, we might think about things like energy usage, carbon footprint during construction, or using eco-friendly materials. This is all important. For a better future, we need to protect nature from the damages we cause. However, as extreme weather events grow more frequent and more severe, it is evident that we need to protect ourselves from nature too. But how do we quantify resilience? Hi, my name is Andrew, and you're watching What's the Matter With, a video series from the MIT Concrete Sustainability Hub. Tune in to each episode to learn about a key topic in our research and in the industry at large. For this episode, I've invited Aris Papadopoulos, the former CEO of Titan America and the founder and chair of the Resilience Action Fund, as well as MIT CSHub's Deputy Director, Hessam AzariJafari, onto the show to discuss the Building Resilience Index, which provides a new understanding of how stronger construction is an essential part of sustainability. Hi, Aris and Hessam. It's good to see you, and I'm happy you could join us. To start off with, I have a question for Aris. Could you talk to me about some of your recent efforts to quantify resilience?
We have a lot of metrics for carbon and for environmental things, but we haven't yet, until the thing I'll talk about right now, we haven't yet come to a acceptable metric standard for resilience. So I fortunately had the opportunity the last couple of years to work with the World Bank, to work with the International Finance Corporation. So we worked together and launched end of last year in the Philippines, the Building Resilience Index, which I consider a first of its kind metric that can be both robust, but also scalable and easy to use.
Sounds really interesting. So out of curiosity, what factors would you say BRI considers?
Really based on compiling what the global best practices are for mitigating hazard vulnerabilities. And we did it across the spectrum of hazards, which we put into 4 categories: wind, water, fire, and geoseismic. So we created a list of mitigation measures, totaling about 75 for all 4 of those categories, and basically identified which of those should apply depending on the local hazards, and then which are must-haves to be at the different rating levels. And the IFC asked us to use a 5-level rating system, which we did, which is A+, B, C, and R. And basically the A and A+, and I'll explain the difference between the two, is at global best practice levels, which is above the codes of any one country. Because we realize that the codes really focus on life safety, focus on getting people out, on evacuation, and resilience is about, obviously life safety is a subset, but, if you can preserve the building, you can preserve also the people, We had to go above the codes to these global best practices to establish the A level. A+ is an A for physical integrity, but includes a number of operational continuity measures, such as backup power, access, water, etc., so that it's not just physical survival of the building, but the building can operate, can function. B is what I would consider a strong national code. C would be kind of a moderate national code or outdated one, and R would be a very weak, obsolete code or unplanned, unpermitted development.
That makes sense. To look at a global, worldwide sort of scale, what would you say the breakdown of building ratings looks like?
Most buildings today will fall under C and R. Few will be Bs, and even fewer will be As and A+. So don't be surprised, if the building you just built to the current code turns out to be a C, So we have set the bar high because Mother Nature is a very tough tester, and resilience will get tested. And the second thing is that hazards will continue deteriorating because of change in the climate.
Absolutely. Hazards are increasing in intensity and frequency. There's a pretty wide body of CSHub research exploring what we can do to mitigate the impacts of these extreme climate events, and I agree, quantifying resilience is an essential component of mitigation. Returning to the topic at hand, are there currently any plans to expand the implementation of BRI?
The index is now being adapted to the Caribbean, and IFC is working on in 2023 coming out with a global version. And I'd like to go to kind of approach people that are already doing green ratings and are registered engineers to also learn about BRI and offer BRI to their buildings so that they can get both a green rating and a resilience rating, So I'd like to approach it that way and see how we can, expand it. And obviously, the more word of mouth and so forth, the better, and academia can help and play a role.
Before we continue the video, I want to quickly note that since this recording, the IFC has changed BRI's rating dial to the one pictured here, which has ratings NR, B or B+, A or A+, AA, and AA+. Thank you, Aris. And Hessam, to expand on the importance of quantifying resilience, could you talk to me about some of the MIT CSHub's efforts to better understand resilience?
So at the Concrete Sustainability Hub, we are working on a wide research portfolio of studies on the resilience of our infrastructure systems and buildings. We are working on how to model and simulate the performance of our built environment against these natural hazards and major events in the future, such as hurricanes, floodings, and fires. We're working on how these hazards will affect our built environment and how much cost, environmental impacts, and social impacts and burdens are associated with these events. And more importantly, we are investigating how to mitigate the impacts of natural hazards on our built environment.
So concrete is the world's most produced material. Hessam, what sort of role do you envision concrete having in creating a more resilient future?
So when we think about the choice of construction materials in different contexts, it's very important to consider the characteristics associated with that specific geographical regions. And one of those characteristics is to what extent that region is prone to different types of hazards. And what we realize from our research is that concrete can play a major role in the resilience of the built environment in hazard-prone areas. For example, we realize that in those states and in those regions that hurricanes are the major type of hazard, concrete buildings can perform better in general compared to the other types of building structures. And for example, for pavements, we realized that when assessing the impacts of pavements in those regions that are prone to major flooding, concrete pavements performs really better. And these are some of the solutions that we could propose to see how we can improve the adaptability and resilience of our neighborhoods and built environment against these major events.
So, what is the matter with the Building Resilience Index and quantifying resilience in general? Having spoken with Aris and Hessam, it is clear that now, more than ever, we must assess resilience as a critical component of sustainability. The BRI offers us a powerful way to quantify what structural resilience against disaster really means. How can we, as community members and stakeholders, use the BRI and similar metrics to better understand hazard risks near and far and design strategies to better address them?